After a phenomenal rookie season, Jaden Daniels looks to lead the Commanders to yet another spectacular year after making the NFC Championship game last season to fall in embarrassing fashion to the Eagles. But nonetheless, getting there was incredibly impressive. And with the majority of his supporting cast returning around him as well, along with strengthening the offensive line with the addition of Josh Conner Jr. in the NFL draft. I think that this is going to be an incredible Commanders team that's going to be able to compete with the Eagles for the division in 2025. First up is the Giants drafting Jackson Dart to compete for the starting quarterback job with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Most likely will not be the starter in week 1. I don't really think it's going to matter who the starter is for the Giants. The Commanders should win this game pretty easily, especially at home. They'll start 1-0.
And then the following week is a Thursday night game against the Packers at Lambeau Field. The Packers are going to be an interesting team next year. Their offense is probably going to be one of the best in the Jordan Love era, considering that they went after Matthew Golden in the first round, finally drafting a wide receiver in the first round. But defensively, there's going to be some questions, particularly in the secondary, with Jair Alexander leaving and joining the Baltimore Ravens. Now their secondary is probably one of the worst in the NFL, but their defensive line, their linebackers are still going to be able to contain Jaden Daniels as much as they can. And I think we're going to see the Commanders drop an early game here to the Packers. The Packers are going to be one of those teams that are going to hang around and beat some of the good teams in the NFL, but could have a chance falling to some not as good teams because their defense is going to be so hit or miss. But I think early on in the season, with that home field advantage, the Packers can knock off the Commanders.
Next, it's going to be the Raiders, and this is a team that we actually kind of like. Now, the Raiders made some really big moves this past offseason, bringing in Geno Smith to be the starting quarterback. They drafted Ashton Jeanty, one of the best players college football has seen in a long time, as well as taking Ohio State's offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. So the offense completely revamped, and I think it's actually going to be a really exciting team to watch. They have the potential to pull off some big upsets. And even though we have the Commanders losing at the Packers, we're going to go ahead and give them back-to-back losses here. They drop one at home in shocking fashion to Las Vegas.
And the Raiders have also gotten better on defense too, and that's ultimately why we think the Raiders can pull off some of these upsets. They got Darian Porter in the NFL draft. They signed Jeremy Chin and Eric Stokes into their secondary. Max Crosby obviously is their leader on that defense. It's going to be a sneaky good Raiders team, much like that entire AFC West division. It's going to be loaded in an absolute dogfight to determine the winner, even though it's probably going to end up being the Chiefs. But you'll have to stick around and watch the rest of our series before we get to the AFC West. The following week, though, is against the Atlanta Falcons, hoping to get back in the win column on the road. And the Falcons are in an interesting spot because it is now looking like Michael Penix is their quarterback of the future, even though they have signed Kirk Cousins for so much money. It's looking like such a horrible contract now. And the Falcons could be a decent team. The weapons around Michael Penix aren't the greatest, at least from a wide receiver standpoint, with Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Ray McLeod. But if Kyle Pitts can finally step up and be one of like the top five tight ends that he was projected to be, and if Bijan Robinson can carry the load that he did last year, then maybe this Falcons offense can put up a fight against the Commanders. But defensively, I just don't think there's a much that the Falcons will be able to do, even though they went and got two edge rushers in this NFL draft, being James Pierce Jr. and Jelon Walker. I don't think it's going to matter. The Commanders will get back in the win column here on the road.
Then it's a road trip to Los Angeles to face Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers. I think that they're going to be a really good team once again. Harbaugh loves his running backs, and he added another one in Omari and Hampton. That's a ridiculous running back room that they have with now Hampton, Hassan Haskins, and Najee Harris. They're going to be really solid in that department, as well as obviously you have Justin Herbert, Lad McConkey coming back at wide receiver, another really good offense that the Commanders have to face, also on the road. But this time, we think they're going to be able to get it done. Back-to-back impressive road wins for the Commanders before the schedule lightens up these next couple weeks.
And that first game after the back-to-back road trip is a Monday night game against the Bears. One of the most heartbreaking games for me to watch last year on that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. I probably have some PTSD from that because that just absolutely derailed the Bears season from that point on. But this year, it could be a slightly better game because the Bears have worked on their offense, getting Luther Burden in the NFL draft. The running back department is hopefully getting a little bit better. They did take a running back in the later sixth and seventh round, but he has actually looked very good during training camp. Defensively, secondary and linebackers are great. It just comes down to that defensive line, and that's the ultimate reason why I think the Commanders are going to beat the Bears. It's because the offensive line the Commanders have is loaded. Like Jonah was saying at the very beginning, they got Josh Connolly Jr. in the first round of the draft, but they also traded for Larmy Tunsil from Jonah's Houston Texans. They also got Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs. This offensive line is going to be absolutely loaded against a Bears defensive line whose best player is Montez Sweat. There's no real concern with the pass rush that the Bears have. That's the ultimate reason why the Commanders are going to be able to win this year against the Bears again.
Next up is a road trip to the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, are we going to fall for the hype again this season? The Cowboys have never been able to live up to it these past few years. I'm not buying the Dak Prescott hype. I'm not buying the Cowboys hype overall. Even though the Commanders are going on the road, they should be winning this game because they are a better team, despite having a now second year quarterback. The Commanders should win this game pretty easily. And then it's a road trip to Kansas City. This another really good matchup. Patrick Mahomes, obviously an incredible quarterback. The Chiefs going to have a great season once again. Obviously, again, favorites to be in contention for a Super Bowl, all of that stuff. I think that they are the better team than the Commanders with the home field advantage. Washington should drop their third game of the season here.
And that starts a tough stretch of games before their bye week. After that, they welcome the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are going to be an interesting team next year. Their offensive line is really, really shaky. They did take the best offensive guard in the NFL draft, along with a multitude of other players, and they're bringing in Sam Darnold to be their quarterback, replacing Geno Smith. After Sam Darnold had a very, very successful season in Minnesota last year, can he replicate that in the Seahawks offense? I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was last year, but I still think he can be serviceable with the weapons that he has surrounding him. Kenneth Walker, if he's healthy, he's going to be a great player in the backfield to take the pressure off of Sam Darnold. And the wide receivers he has as his weapons, Jackson Smith-Njigba coming off of his best season in the NFL, and Cooper Kupp, who they signed in the offseason, a former Triple Crown winner. Those weapons alone are going to be enough to keep the Seahawks offense afloat. And defensively, I think they're in great shape. Every single area on the field for the defense has someone who can take control of the game. I think the Seahawks are going to get a big upset against the Commanders here, even if it is at home for the Commanders, dropping them to 5-4 before a rematch with the Detroit Lions, who they beat in the divisional round last year, the Lions being the number one seed. And the Lions did not have a lead in that game, I don't think. I think the Commanders were in control the entire way. This year, it's going to be a completely different kind of game because it is obviously now at the Commanders, and the Lions lost the majority of their coaching staff. Dan Campbell's still there, but Ben Johnson took a head coaching job in Chicago. Aaron Glenn is in New York with the Jets. A lot of the other position coaches have also followed the coordinators to different jobs. This Lions team is going to be completely different from a coaching perspective, but the key players are still there. Jared Goff at quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery in the backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams as your wide receivers, plus the return of an Aiden Hutchinson who is hopefully completely healthy and who was on the road to being the DPOI last year. This Lions team is going to come back with a vengeance, and I think they will drop the Commanders to 5-5, three straight losses after the Cowboys game. It's looking a little bleak here for the Commanders, but maybe they'll be able to turn it around with this game against the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one for sure. The Dolphins have some talent. It's really tough to say, though. I mean, Tua, with all of his concussions last season, we don't know if he's going to be able to play a full year. He's obviously at higher risk of getting a concussion every time he gets sacked now. Definitely something that you're going to have to watch out for as a Dolphins fan. And I think that it is going to end up costing them. Maybe he has to play more conservatively, that kind of stuff. Not to mention that the Commanders are really just a better team than Miami. And I do think that they're going to be able to bounce back in Madrid to pick up this really key win to get back above 500 before their bye week.
And after the bye week, they play the Broncos and Bo Nix, who, if it weren't for Jaden Daniels, very well could have been the rookie of the year last year after having a remarkable season in his own right. But comparing these two teams, the offensive lines, very similar, very, very good. The weapons surrounding the quarterbacks, though, are night and day. Commanders have Terry McLaurin as a wide receiver. They got Deebo Samuel during the offseason. Noah Brown is starting to become a very, very good role player. And they still got some other guys with a tremendous amount of experience as depth piece. They got Michael Gallup and KJ Osborne, both really experienced guys. This Commanders team has plenty of weapons to utilize. And defensively, both teams are pretty close. The secondary probably leans towards the Broncos with the reigning DPOI and Pat Surtain. But I do think the Commanders will get the win over the Broncos after the bye week, after that tough stretch of games prior. They will need that rest if they want to still compete for an NFC East title, and that'll start with a win over the Broncos.
The next two games, both on the road, should be pretty easy, though. First one against the Vikings. Obviously, you have to defend Justin Jefferson, but if you can do that, it shouldn't be terribly difficult. JJ McCarthy going to be the Vikings starting quarterback this year, and we really don't think he's going to be that great. I think he's a downgrade from Sam Darnold. And to be honest, the Vikings just aren't going to be as good as they were last season. I think the Commanders pick up this win pretty easily. And then we won't talk too much about the Giants because we already did earlier in the video. Again, even though it's on the road, the Commanders are a significantly better team. It might be Jackson Dart starting by this point. I don't really think it makes a difference. Give me the Commanders again, getting up to 9-5 before this tough stretch to close out the year.
And that starts with hosting the reigning Super Bowl champs in the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles certainly did not get worse from last season, retaining most of the guys they had from that Super Bowl winning team. Saquon Barkley is obviously still the star of this team, back as their starting running back. Jalen Hurts also back. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert, that entire offensive line. And defensively, the rest of the NFL screwed up and let the Eagles draft Jahad Campbell and Andrew Makuba, two studs from the SEC who are going to make instant impacts for this Eagles defense. It's going to be a tough team to beat. The Eagles have a very significant chance to go back to back as Super Bowl champs, but the Commanders did split with them last season. The Commanders made upgrades of their own. I think at home, the Commanders will be able to get a win here. It's going to be similar to last season where the Commanders ended the year on a 5 game win streak. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now with the win over the Eagles here. They are on a 5 game win streak, 4 games after the bye week. It's going to be a race down the stretch, even if it is very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean these last two matchups, division matchups again. So we've already kind of talked about them. They beat the Cowboys on the road. I think they'll be able to do it at home pretty easily. And then the tricky one's going to be the road trip to Philadelphia Connor just talked a lot about the Eagles. I think this is going to be a great game. Making it at Philly is definitely going to make it tougher for the Commanders to win this one as well. And as we know, it's really tough to beat the same team twice. With the Cowboys, the Commanders are just significantly better. The Eagles, a little bit better than the Commanders, in my opinion, but these are very close teams. So I think that does come into play a lot more here. This game also could potentially be for a division title, depending on the record the Eagles have coming into the game. You'll have to check out the Eagles video, which came out yesterday, in order to see what we have their record being. But I think this is going to be a great game again. I just don't see the Commanders sweeping the Eagles on the season. I think they drop this one and fall to 11-6. Last year, the Commanders were 12-5. We talked about that hot streak to end the season, making it all the way to the NFC Championship game. This year, we have them going 11-6, floor, 9 wins and 8 losses. It's a tough schedule, and there's a few big games that we had them winning that could potentially go the other way. But I think the ceiling is doing even better than last year. Jaden Daniels looked so good this past season, giving him a better offensive line with his dual threat capabilities already makes it very, very scary. So I think 13-4 is a possibility, but realistically, going to see him down more around 11 wins. The Vegas over under pretty low in our opinion, down at 9.5. Even odds on the over under for that. But our prediction 11-6. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.